Plenary session, when I talk about philosophy of integration between economic development, regional economic development, and transportation policies, they kind of the integrated strategy can include city to city level, and country to country level, and village to village level. And for the country to country level, probably ICAP member will present some idea about what ICAP has done so far. And our Korean Deputy Minister for Territorial Development and Urban Development showed an example at the level of village to village. And my presentation will deal with more general approach which can be applicable to city level. Okay. Next slide, please. Probably you remember that I mentioned input, output metrics, and then orientation and destination metrics. The input output metrics describing interrelation among the industry, and every economy has representative input output metrics, and the input output metrics can reveal which industry can produce more value added, and which industry can lead the other industries, and which industry is following the leading industries. And also we can figure out which supply chain among industries can lead desirable effect in boosting the economy. Economic side, quality of economy, and quantity of economy. That is the magic. If you can utilize very well the input-output metrics, you can expect overall GDP, and you can expect overall inducement of employment, whatever. It's very useful measure. That's why the famous Washington Leontief got the Nobel Prize through this methodology in diagnosing overall industrial and business and economic advantage and disadvantage, and sometimes recommendation to improve it. And if you see that, if you see the last line of the slide, that is a power series. That's a power series. The A means input output metrics, and demand as a final demand of the economy. And after producing the final demand, the side byproduct will be reinvested again to the society, and recursive investment will make the total sum of the economic size. Next slide, please. Right. And then this is about the mechanism, how the transportation time reduced by transportation infrastructure can be reinvested through the mechanism of the input-output metrics. I am talking about very classical theory. I don't talk about very new creative concept. Every economic, the Ministry of Planning and Budget or Ministry of Industry are doing diagnosing and planning using those mechanisms to boost, to enhance their economic status. That is the one example of Australian railway project. In this project, the assessing wider economic impact of transport infrastructure investment with an illustrative application to the Northwest Railway project in Sydney. That is the name of the research, it's a long name. But anyway, you can see the number in the probably in the last paragraph. 17.6% is the number. So if we assume if we set the direct benefit as 100%, and then the secondary effect of the reduced time by the railway project created additional 17.6%. So direct impact, it is very simple to understand. The railway will changing over route of transportation flow of service, people, or a commodity, so that they have reduced over some of the transportation time. The summation of the transportation time can be translated in money value. So due to the reduced time, we can get the money value, and the money value is counted as a direct benefit of the railway project. After the direct benefit, the reduced time were invested recursively to the input-output production system. The production system get additional benefit by 17.6% of the transportation infrastructure. Next slide, please. Right now, I want to introduce orientation destination database. Orientation destination database is a directional flow of goods, of people, and services, which was supported by the input-output matrix. Can you go to the last slide? Go to last slide. No? Okay, I will explain with my words. The input-output matrix is n by n matrix, and each n represents the industry of a service sector, which can be regarded as individual economic agents, activities. The role of the input-output matrix represents the selling of each industry. The column represents buying, purchasing of the industry. For example, I'm a customer. I'm a worker in the government sector. I am selling my labor to government, and the government gives me salary. So my economic activity is recorded in the row, the horizontal line, in the horizontal dynamic customer. In the column line, I have to purchase food, or I have to pay my rent, I have to pay education fee my children. That kind of a thing is recorded into the column. If we have a complete set of overall partners, we can have a beautiful n by n matrix which explain exact status, economic status of the nation or the region. It's very simple. The simple matrix can produce many useful indicators, GDP, or some of the value added, or some of employment, and some of the main supply chain, which can augment the overall economy of the region or the nation, right? So therefore, each combination of the matrix has a direction. So some industry gets something from other industry, and the industry produce something to sell the other industry. It is the direction. Therefore, input-output metrics produce the flow. And the OD database explains the flow with the location, right? So far, it is simple to understand. Therefore, input-output metrics will create orientation, destination metrics of the service, of people, and money value, right? And then, what transportation policy works between the system. Transportation policy should be able to make orientation, destination, traffic flow more efficient, right? And then we can, as we saw in the Australian railway project, the more efficient orientation, destination metrics will be reinvested to the input-output metrics in the nation, right? Yes. Look, next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Next slide, please. This is the econometrics, the proof of econometrics to capture the synergy effect. If there is the synergy between IO and the IO and the OD metrics. Probably. The previous slide, there is no multiplication. The next slide have a multiplication, right? The multiplication indicates the synergy. And the column in the right side, there is a factor. Factor means really poor causality. If you see the column, that is, for example, number of manufacturing and number of the other industrial components, as well as accessibility and population, they are intercorrelate too severely. Therefore, it is not appropriate to use all the elements in the pure regression analysis. That's why I do the factor analysis to extract really poor factors of the original variable. Next slide, please. Right. That is the proof. That is the proof if there is really synergy between IO and OD. If there is synergy, the next slide should have bigger number of meaningful factor, and also the synergy effect should be captured in the regression. Right. In the first table, the number of meaningful factors is 8. Then when I use synergy indicator, synergy means the second slide. In the first slide there is no synergy, and second slide there is a synergy. There are synergy indicator, and the first slide just produce meaningful indicator by just 3 or 4. But in the second slide, the number of meaningful factor is up to 8. That means synergy indicator produce additional meaningful factors. And also, the R-squared value is an indication of robustness, the regression analysis. If you see that, well, I omitted some. When I make a model using the first slide, the R-squared value is just 0.6. The second slide produces 0.67. That means 7% of enhancement in modeling. That means That means the synergy indicator produces meaningful factors as well as increase the power of the model, regression model. And then the next, the under table shows the captured quantity of the synergies. If you see that, oh no, next slide please. I just technically captured only the secondary effect. If you see that the secondary effect, you can see this plus 17 in the second row, 17.2%, and the 38.8%. That percent indicate only the secondary effect. Secondary effect means the reduced time by the first transportation infrastructure operation. Those when those time are reinvested into the social protection system, we could get those kind of additional secondary effect. That is a simple verification the existence of secondary effect. Next slide, please. Right. Probably next slide, please. Then that is the idea. That is the idea of how to combine I/O and the OLE database. When you talk about the connectivity enhancement, we always talk about seamless connectivity or just without some universal strategy without specific purpose. But my research indicates that the transportation investment for enlarging connectivity should be aligned with I/O metrics, should be aligned with specific supply chain among the industry. Through the data analysis, we can find out which region is combined with certain industry, and those regions can have benefit from the industrial functionality with specific regional and industrial supply chain, and we should determine those kind of supply chain is worthy of investing in transportation. Therefore, transportation investment should facilitate with a purpose and with a certain geographical direction to boost the desirable effect of desirable supply chain among the industry with the regional location. And those things can be done careful investigation of data. Usually, to make I/O metrics and to make OD metrics, the national research agencies are doing simple survey questions. Through those simple mechanisms, we can analyze our industrial structure combined by regional locations, and then we can operate our transportation infrastructure to make desirable flow facilitate economic flow among industries at the regional basis. That's my simple strategy, how to combine regional development and transportation investment. Sorry for more complicated explanation about my slide, but I think this is my second time. In the last TPTW47, I did the previous version of this analysis, and this is a more upgraded version. And thank you for listening to my presentation. Thank you. And any comment or question are welcome.
All right, thank you. Are there any comments? If not, I suggest to discuss our next presentation,